Hello and welcome to my channel for another video. Today we're going to be making a 1/12 scale soft goods driver from the movie Drive featuring Ryan Gosling. This is something I've wanted to make for a long time. Actually, one of my earliest customs was a figure of the driver. It was made from NECA figures, and so I used the Blade Runner Officer K, and I actually sold that one on eBay. And kind of a cool thing, I became friends with the guy who bought it. You know, we've met up at conventions and I've done other art commissions for him and stuff. Real cool guy. So one of the cool things that can happen from doing this kind of stuff. You know, my collection is largely geared toward characters and the vehicles that they are known for. One of the most heavily featured vehicles that he drives in that film is a Mustang like this one. I found this. This is a new bright Mustang. Took me forever to track down one of these that was the right body style. And this one happened to be the right color too. So the fact that I don't have to paint it is pretty awesome. But it does need a little bit of work, so we'll go over what needs to be done to it and then the supplies that I'm going to be using for the figure itself, and then we'll get to it. Okay, first and foremost, we're going to take a look at the Mustang here. So this actually had a bunch of decals on it that I already took off. They were already kind of peeling off like out of the box. So this was used. I mean, it wasn't brand new or anything, but you can see where the decals were. So I'm going to try to polish this thing up, and you know, there's a lot of like dirt and dust on it and stuff. So we're going to get it cleaned up and hopefully make it look a little newer and shinier. It's going to be scuffed. It's got a few little dents and stuff, but you know, the car gets pretty banged up in the scene in the movie. So I'm not too worried about that. One thing I would like to change are the wheels. What are these? Probably like 18, 20-inch rims or something in the real life equivalent. And the actual car had like the stock wheels and tires on it. So I would like to change these. And what I'd like to put on there instead are the wheels from this Bratz car. These actually do look similar to the wheels that the Mustang had on them. Not exact, but you know, close enough. These also have a better profile. There's a lot more tire on this. So we'll see how that looks. And then next up, we have the figure parts. So we're going to start with our Mix Max body. Because of the scale of the vehicle, it's a little big for like a Mezco size figure. So this Mix Max muscular body is going to be perfect because it's a little bit tall. So it's going to work really well. You know, it makes it almost like a NECA size figure. I will have to Dremel down the shoulders a bit because they're a little too rounded and a little too wide, and they fill out the jacket a little too much. And then I've already painted the head. This is a head that I got from an eBay seller in China that I use quite a bit. Pretty happy with the paint job on this guy though. And I'm actually going to try to add some hair to him. I bought this yarn to use as like scaled rope, and it actually is very wispy and hair-like. Here's what that looks like. So I want to cut some of it and use it to kind of make the front part of his hair where it kind of will flop over a little bit. For the clothing, got some pants from GPS Lot as well as a jean jacket. In the movie, he will wear like a denim jacket, and then he wears the iconic Scorpion jacket over a jean jacket, which is kind of crazy because like it's in LA and it's hot, but whatever. And then he'll wear like one of these Henleys underneath. And then for the shoes, these are from a NECA Blade Runner Deckard. And then the jacket. Now, the Drive jacket actually has brown accents. The collar is brown. This piece is brown, and the sleeves are brown. It's also got some brown like kind of vents right here. This brown jacket from GPS Lot was the best base for this. Now, the plan is to use some of this stuff. This is Angelus acrylic leather paint. I've seen other people use this stuff before on customs, and it looks really good. My buddy These Damn Toys on Instagram used some of this stuff on his Netflix Daredevil Mezco figure to make it look like the She-Hulk version. It looked pretty rad. I wanted to give it a shot. They don't make a pearl color, and because the jacket that he wears is pearl, what I did was I got cream, silver, and white. And so I'm going to play with it, but some combination of probably cream and silver, I think, is going to make for a pearl color. I'll link to these on Amazon for you in the description below. They come in a bunch of different colors, so it'll be useful across several projects, I'm sure. I'm really excited to use it. You know, the key when you're painting fabric is it's got to be something that won't crack when you bend it and stuff. So I'm thinking that this is going to be the key. Well, oh, and then for the hands, this GW Toys body came with a few different kinds of hands. There were like just regular plain hands, some with like wrapped bandages on them, and then these that have little glove details on them. That's gonna be everything we're using. I think first up we'll try painting that jacket. A bit of an update. I got the clothes on. I needed this body because of its height and because of the breadth of the shoulder area, because the jacket I have is just like made for a wider body, so it would look like a little kid wearing a grown-up jacket or something. But getting these pants on was incredibly difficult. I had to literally like carve off chunks of plastic to get the pants on. I also carved down the shoulders and the chest a bit because it was sitting too high, because this, you know, when you're working with fabric at this scale, the slightest little fold of like an inseam thing like this here, like pushes it out so it looks like he has just like a super broad chest, right? There's not a lot of margin for error on when you're dealing with stuff this size. So I had to shave the chest down and try to help accommodate what the jacket was doing. This is the brown jacket that we started with, and I made a pearl color using cream and silver and that fabric paint. And there's several layers on this. It did take quite a bit because, you know, whenever you're painting something like white or yellow or something dark like this, like it's just going to show through unless you do several coats. But I did that and I think it's looking pretty good. So next up, I'm going to paint the scorpion on the back, just using some gold acrylic. I have this that I actually bought years ago for the first drive figure I did. And then the head, I added some of that yarn for the hair to it. Just a few little flyaways, but all in all, I think it looks really, really great. It's pretty seamless on there. Fortunately, the yarn was just like the right color for this, based on how I had painted it. And I didn't do that on purpose, it just kind of worked out. But yeah, you can see like just that extra little bit of lifelike quality that it adds to it. I'm gonna paint the gloves, paint the shoes, paint the scorpion on the jacket, and then I think we're gonna be in business. Okay, for the gloves, I'm using some of this raw sienna and the burnt umber. Now these are just like craft store paints. I use these on a lot of projects. I'll have a link in the description below if you want to get some. They're just like inexpensive craft store acrylics. They cost like, you know, under $2 a bottle, and they do a good job. So, you know, no need to use like super fancy stuff because this gets it done. Okay, so time to paint the scorpion on the jacket, and I have a reference photo to the side here, and I think I'm just kind of gonna freehand it. Looks like the bulk of the scorpion is like in the center here. So you got like the little head, and then the body is just this kind of oval shape. The thing about this kind of paint is like there's nothing to absorb it, so you kind of have to let it glob onto the surface. Now I'm comfortable freehanding this because I draw pretty much every day, but if you're trying something like this, it's certainly okay to plan it out a little more. I was thinking about it, I've never seen a custom of this character in this style of figure, like a 1/12 scale soft goods figure, so this could be the first one, which is pretty cool. Stinger is starting to form there. Alright, I'm pretty good with that. I think that's about it. Now, the way that this thing is done on the jacket in real life is that it's like embroidered. They use two different colors of thread, so it's like a yellower color on the left, and then there's some kind of like embroidered shading, kind of an orange color. So I might try to go in and do that at some point. All right, so that's one side. We'll do the other just like it, and then see about going in with the darker bronze on the edge there. All right, jacket is done. I did do the darker bit on the side here, and it's a little bit on some of the legs, but it's kind of hard to tell. It wasn't like a real stark contrast, and so I just kind of let it be what it is. But yeah, all in all, I'm pleased with how this turned out. This was not as difficult as I thought it might be. We got our body here, Jacket's gonna go on. I'm gonna let this dry just a few minutes longer before I try wrestling it onto this body. I did get the hands painted. I still have to do the shoes, so those need to be painted pearl. I'm probably gonna have to Dremel this out so that this rounded piece of the ball peg thing can fit into it. And then I'll have to use hot glue to make sure there's enough material in there to hold it snug, otherwise he'll just flop all over the place. Figure's done. Doing a little check-in on the car here. So I got the wheels off. I did try those Bratz wheels and tires, and they were just way too small. Like, it was like comical the way they, you know, like they kind of look like this. So sticking with what came with the vehicle, I also cleaned it up. So I'm going to spray paint these to be more of a matte silver color, so they're not this like fake chrome look. I'm not happy with the size of the wheels and the profile of the tires, so I will keep an eye out for maybe some replacement tires. But the problem is, when you're dealing with RC, what they call like touring or drift vehicles, like they all have just super low profile tires and big wheels. It just kind of is what it is. Like, it's very hard to find anything other than that. So, all right, quick look at the wheels. You can see the difference between the shiny that they were versus what they are now. So it's much more muted and subtle now. Looks a lot more like the actual wheels you'd see on this vehicle. So try to figure out how I got these off in the first place and get them put back on, and then we'll be in business. Okay, making the license plate. I forgot to mention this tape. This is like 3M, I think it's 3M aluminum tape. It's basically just shiny. It doesn't feel like it's made of aluminum. I think there is an actual aluminum tape you can get that's like maybe for plumbing that's thicker than this, but this is what I ended up with, and I have a lot of it clearly, so I'm just trying to go through this one tiny little license plate at a time. But the idea is that you back a license plate or a sign, you know, street sign, anything that's metal with this stuff, and it gives it a little bit more rigidity, and it also gives it just kind of that realistic like metal look to it. And we're gonna put it behind the license plates. I printed them in different sizes in case the printer didn't do them at the right scale, but it looks like it was pretty much 1-to-1. Now, I made these. These are actually the license plates that are on that vehicle in the movie. I basically found some California plates online and borrowed different letters from different ones in Photoshop. All right, I'm gonna clean up the shape of this a little bit before I put it on, but there you can see it's got a little license plate now. Just really helps to add to the kind of overall believability of the realism of the vehicle. So all right, and here we have the finished product on the turntable, and I think this is a pretty dope pairing. I'm very happy with how this looks. Painting those the more matte silver was just a really easy and quick way to get them to look a lot more believable, so that even though they're these like large, almost like 20-inch wheels on this Mustang, like it looks a lot more subtle. Yeah, so let's get a closer look at the figure itself. Right, so here's the driver. Yeah, I think it looks pretty awesome. You can see that I put that yarn up front on his hair, and man, it just looks like real hair. It's crazy. Like, You know, I've used thread before and that can be a little thick. I'm gonna have to buy more yarn to use for this purpose, because I really feel like when you add this kind of thing, this like, you know, rooted looking hair to these figures, it just takes the realism up like a whole nother level. So, you know, as you saw, this was a brown jacket that I painted with that leather paint, and it does have a nice like kind of leathery finish quality. I don't believe this is a result I could have gotten by using regular acrylic paint. Acrylic scorpion on the back. The gloves turned out pretty well. You know, ideally I would have been able to layer the jean jacket under. I thought about cutting it and just having like the collar and the, you know, lapel parts showing. Ultimately, I didn't want to cut up a perfectly good little jacket that, you know, cost money and I could use it on something else. You know, because there were scenes where he wasn't wearing the jacket underneath this jacket as well. So this is still pretty screen accurate. And then the shoes, I don't think I showed yet. Painting these was difficult. It's a smooth surface and the paint doesn't always want to stick to it. So that was a bit challenging. That's the driver. This was, I thought it was going to be very simple, straightforward. It was actually somewhat challenging because of not being able to get the jeans on and having to carve his body down quite a bit. A lot of futzing with the layers and the jacket, and then ultimately deciding that the layer underneath was going. But yeah, I think it looks pretty great, and I'm excited to pair him with this car on the shelf. Let's take a look at the two together again. I think I might display him something like this. You know, I love this movie, as I mentioned before. It's one of my favorites, and having a representation on the shelf has always been a priority. Making a custom of this was one of the first ones I ever did, but that was back when I thought I should do these to sell them, and so I sold it. And like I mentioned, my buddy Mark bought it. We actually became friends because he bought it. Shout out to Mark. He said, you know, this figure better not be better than the one I got from you, jokingly. I'm afraid that it is, Mark, but but you know, now it's like we each have like one half of a pair kind of thing, so that's cool. The only two drive figures in this scale made by me, at least, so that's kind of fun. But yeah, so that's gonna wrap up this video. I want to thank you all so much for watching and for your continued support. As I mentioned in another video, 2022 has been just the worst year of my life, and the hits keep coming, man. You know, it's November right now, and I'm just like, what else is gonna happen? Because it hasn't let up. But you all have been a real nice thing for me this year. When I started this channel, I had like 15 subscribers, and over the last several months, we're up over 800 now, and that's all thanks to you folks subscribing and sharing and commenting and liking, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. It's really been a wonderful outlet for me to have during this difficult time, and your support just means the world, so thank you all so much. If you're new to the channel, this is the kind of stuff that I do on a pretty regular basis, so I would invite you to come along and subscribe and join in the fun. I love chatting with you all in the comments about this kind of stuff, so if you have any questions about anything I used here or techniques or anything, just drop a line. I always get back to people as soon as I can. In the middle of the video, you'll have seen a brief trailer from my graphic novel Retroactive. It's kind of James Bond meets Groundhog Day. It's a spy-fi thriller set in the not too distant future. It features a time loop scenario. So if you enjoy that kind of story, I think you'll like that book. It's sort of like a movie in graphic novel form. I wrote and drew it myself. I'm very proud of it. Colors by my good buddy Brad Simpson. Letters by the excellent Hassan Othman El House. That's available on Amazon at the link below. Also at your local bookstore and comic book shop. That'll do it for this one. Until next time, keep your head on swivel.